My name is Rachel, and I was 20 years old the day my life split in two. I had just come back from a long shift at the campus library when my phone buzzed with a new email notification. I almost didn't open it right away. You know those silly little habits you have, where you delay something because you're too nervous. That was me. The subject line already said everything. Congratulations, you've been accepted. I gasped so loud I startled my dog, Max, who jumped off the couch. Like the world was ending. My hands were shaking so badly that I nearly dropped my phone, but I swiped it open and there it was in black and white. I had gotten into Everett University's data science program. I couldn't believe it. Everett was my dream school. The moment felt so big that I wanted to scream it from the rooftop. Instead, I bolted down the hallway like a maniac, nearly tripping over the corner rug, until I landed in the kitchen where my parents were sipping coffee. I got in, I shouted, grinning from ear to ear. Everett University, data science program. My mom blinked, set her mug down, and said flatly, "Oh, that's great." She didn't even smile. Before I could process her lack of excitement, a ding rang out from across the table. My twin sister Caroline was scrolling on her phone. She looked up with that smug little smirk she was famous for. "Me too," she said. "Just got the email. Everett accepted me too." The energy in the room shifted instantly. My mom shot up from her chair like someone had lit a fire under her. "Oh my God, Caroline, that's incredible." She pulled her into a hug, squeezing her like Caroline had just won an Olympic gold medal. My dad got up to patting Caroline's shoulder proudly. "Everett is lucky to have you." I stood there frozen, still holding my phone with my own acceptance letter open, watching them fawn over my sister like I was invisible. We both got in. I reminded them softly, my voice smaller than I intended. Dad glanced at me for half a second. Of course, but Caroline was always the more natural fit for Everett's program. My stomach twisted. "What's that supposed to mean?" He waved it off casually. "Nothing, just, she's always been more focused." I bit my tongue. Focused. Carolyn, the same girl who forgot her set test date twice, who only passed calculus because I tutored her through every problem set. She was the focused one. It felt like the floor was sliding out from under me. That night, over dinner, I tried again. I wanted to talk about tuition, housing, and next steps. But when I mentioned money, my mom sighed like I was asking for a trip to Paris instead of a degree. "Rachel," she said, her tone sharp, "we need to be honest with you. We're not paying for your tuition." I blinked. "What?" Dad didn't even look up from his laptop. "We've decided to use the college fund for Caroline." I stared at them in disbelief. That fund was for both of us. We're twins. We both got in. "Why does she get it all?" "It's not that simple," Mom said. "Caroline has shown more consistency, more dedication, and I haven't." My voice cracked. "You've always been creative," Mom said, and I knew exactly what that meant in our house. Creative was code for unreliable, for risky, for someone who wasn't worth betting on. "College is a huge investment," she continued. "We can't afford to take chances." I swallowed hard. I earned this too. We both got accepted to the same program at the same school. I worked just as hard. Dad's words cut me open. "You don't deserve it. Not the way she does." And that was that. Caroline would be attending Everett, fully funded. I was on my own. Caroline didn't say a word. She just kept scrolling her phone, pretending not to hear a single thing. That night, I locked myself in my room and stared at the acceptance letter until the words blurred. I wanted to cry, but I refused. Crying would only confirm what they already thought of me, that I was weak, soft, undeserving. So instead, I opened a blank document on my laptop. And I started researching scholarships, grants, student loans, anything that could get me to Everett without their help. If my parents thought I would give up and quietly accept their verdict, then they didn't know me at all. When I left for Everett, I didn't leave with a carload of furniture or a proud family send-off like Caroline did. No, I had 2 duffel bags, a beat-up old laptop that overheated whenever I opened more than 3 tabs, and a knot of bitterness lodged in my chest. My parents didn't help me pack. They didn't even say goodbye. They were too busy loading up Caroline's new dorm room, snapping pictures for Facebook, writing captions like "so proud of our girl," starting her new adventure. The only family member who showed up for me was my Aunt Janice. She picked me up from the bus station with a hug and a grocery bag of snacks. "You can crash on the pullout," she said, ruffling my hair. "It's lumpy, but it's yours." That night, lying on her creaky sofa bed, with the smell of her neighbor's spicy cooking wafting through the walls, reality sank in. They weren't bluffing. They really weren't going to help me at all. But honestly, it wasn't the first time they'd made it clear who mattered more. Caroline and I may be twins, but only on paper. She was born 40 minutes earlier, and somehow she was always 40 steps ahead in my parents' eyes. She got the Barbie dream house for Christmas. I got socks. She got private dance lessons and extra tutoring. I got told, "You're independent, you don't need all that." She had a sweet 16 party with a DJ and catering. I had a cupcake at the kitchen table. And now, once again, Caroline was the princess while I was the afterthought. But if they thought that would stop me, they were wrong. Caroline had her shiny dorm room, her fully paid tuition, her allowance for living expenses, not me. I had a pull-out sofa, a pile of scholarship applications, and the constant sound of my aunt's neighbor blasting 80s rock through the walls. The first semester was brutal. I had pieced together a financial plan with a mix of small scholarships, 100 here, 1,000 there, and some student loans. It was barely enough to make ends meet. I worked mornings at a coffee shop, afternoons as a library assistant, and weekends in a call center where people yelled at me about slow internet speeds. By the time I staggered home at night, my legs ached, my back hurt from carrying textbooks, and my brain buzzed like a dying computer fan. But I refused to quit. Everett's data science program was infamous for weeding out students in the first 2 years, and I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction, so while Caroline was out laughing with her group of polished Friends girls with perfect, hair-brand new MacBooks and designer tote bags, I was in the front row of every lecture, scribbling notes like my life depended on it, and in a way, it did. I met with professors during office hours, even when I didn't have questions. I needed them to see me, to know I wasn't just another name on the roster. While most of my classmates had the luxury of exploring, I didn't. I wasn't at Everett to find myself. I was there to survive. By the start of sophomore year, things got harder. Some of my scholarships didn't renew. My loans crept higher. My aunt never complained about me crashing in her tiny apartment, but I could feel the strain. She deserved better than a college kid living rent-free on her couch. So I started searching for something else. At first it was small stuff, helping a grad student clean up a messy data set. Then another student asked if I could scrape some numbers from a website. Then a local shop owner needed help analyzing customer feedback. I didn't know the first thing about business. I didn't have a brand, or a strategy, or even a decent laptop. But I knew how to work. One gig led to another. By spring, I had 3 steady clients and a basic website. By summer, I was filing taxes as a sole proprietor. The money wasn't amazing, but it was enough. Enough to cover groceries. Enough to hand Aunt Janice a little cash for rent, which she promptly spent on a new futon for me. Laughing, "If you're gonna crash here, at least you shouldn't wake up shaped like a pretzel." That futon felt like luxury compared to the old pull-dash-out dot, and eventually, after months of saving, I signed the lease on a tiny studio apartment of my own. Top floor, no elevator, leaky faucets, but it was mine. That first night, I sat on the floor eating instant noodles out of a paper cup. For the first time in 2 years, I let myself breathe. No safety net. No strings. No parents reminding me of what I didn't deserve. Just me. I barely saw Caroline anymore. We were in the same program, but by then we didn't share any classes. Once in a while, I'd spot her across campus, laughing with friends, holding a bubble tea, her hair curled to perfection. She never acknowledged me, and I didn't wave either. It was easier to act like strangers. The gap between us only grew. She had a new outfit every week, vacations during breaks. The kind of social life I couldn't even imagine. I had textbooks, with secondhand notes in the margins, a laptop that groaned every time I ran a program, and late nights fueled by vending machine coffee. But slowly, almost invisibly, my life began to shift. My little side hustle grew. Word spread. Small. Businesses liked that I explained numbers in plain English instead of jargon. Students liked that I got projects done fast. And somewhere along the way, people started calling me reliable. The same word my parents had once used against me suddenly became my strength. Then came the night that changed everything. I had just finished a client call and was heating leftover stir-fry when a knock came at my door. I opened, ate and froze. My parents stood there, my mom in a tailored coat, my dad, stiff, pale, like he wasn't sure he wanted to be there at all. I hadn't seen them in nearly 2 years. Not a visit, not a call, not even a birthday text. "Rachel," Mom said, her voice tight. "We need to talk. It's about Caroline." My stomach dropped, of course. They hadn't come because they missed me. They hadn't come because they finally recognized my hard work. They had come because something was wrong with Caroline. I didn't invite them in. I just stood in the doorway, heart pounding. "She hasn't answered our texts or calls in over a week," Dad said. "Her roommate says she's barely been home." I crossed my arms. "And you think I know where she is?" "You go to the same school," Mom said. "You must have some idea." "I don't," I answered flatly. "We don't exactly run in the same circles." They exchanged a nervous glance. That's when Dad pulled a folded paper from his coat and handed it to me. I opened it. My stomach knotted. Final notice, past due balance. Immediate payment required to avoid legal action. Unit 4B, Glendale Avenue Apartments. Balance owed, $4,732. I blinked. "I don't understand." "She stopped paying rent," Mom admitted softly. 3 months ago. "I thought you were covering her rent," I said. "We were," Dad said defensively. "We sent her money. Every month." "We assumed you assumed she was paying it," I cut in. They looked ashamed. "Apparently," Mom whispered, "she spent it on other things. Clothes, trips, ski weekends. Of course she did." Caroline had always lived like rules didn't apply to her. And they had always let her. "So what now?" I asked. "You think." "I know where she is. You could still help," Mom said. "She's your sister." I laughed bitterly. "Sister? You mean the one you chose over me? The one you paid for while I worked 3 jobs and slept on a couch?" "That's not fair," Dad snapped. "No," I said. "It's the truth." Mom softened her tone. "We're not asking you to pay her rent. Just help us find her. She might respond to you." "She won't," I said coldly. "And even if she did, that's not my problem." The words hung in the air like thunder. "You've made your choices," I told them. "So did Caroline, and I made mine. You stopped being my family the day you told me I didn't deserve the same education as her." They both flinched, as if my words had cut through the years of denial. "You've changed," Mom whispered. "Yes," I said. "I had to." After that night, I thought I was done with them. My parents had shown up at my door desperate, begging me to step into the role of rescuer for the same daughter they once crowned the family's golden child. And I had told them the truth, that Caroline's mess wasn't mine to clean up, when they left my apartment. Pale and silent, I figured that was it. That was the last time I'd see them. For almost 2 months, my life felt calm again. I kept building my business, juggling school, and trying not to look over my shoulder. I had no intention of being dragged back into their drama. Then something unexpected happened. I was invited to speak at a youth entrepreneurship panel. Nothing fancy, just a regional conference for students and early-stage founders. My mentor practically begged me to accept at first. I wanted to say no. Public speaking terrified me. But my mentor reminded me, Rachel, your story matters. Kids need to hear it. So I said yes. What I didn't know was that a small business magazine had just run a profile on me. They found me through a client, wrote about how I built a company from scratch while still in school, and even included a photo of me at my desk. The article made its way onto my parents' Facebook feed, which is why, on the morning of the panel, when I peeked out at the audience from backstage, I nearly choked. There they were. Third row, sitting side by side like statues, my mom clutching her handbag, my dad with his practiced smile. I almost walked out. I almost let fear win. But then I remembered, this stage wasn't for them. It was for me. When my name was called, I walked out in a blazer that cost more than my entire freshman wardrobe. My heart hammered in my chest, but my voice held steady. I talked about struggle, about sleeping on a futon, working 3 jobs, and pulling all-nighters just to keep up. But I also talked about growth, how being forced to build without a safety net had taught me resilience, grit, and independence. It wasn't about revenge, it was about agency, about learning to choose my own path when no one else believed in me. When I finished, the audience clapped. I smiled, but inside I felt something else, relief. Relief that I hadn't let their presence silence me. Afterward, I slipped into the hallway, hoping to escape unnoticed. But then I heard it. Rachel. I turned slowly. My parents stood there, waiting. That was very impressive, my dad said carefully. I said nothing. We saw the article, Mom added. It surprised us. Clearly, I replied. There was a pause, then Mom sighed. Caroline's not doing well. My chest tightened, but I kept my face neutral. She's fallen behind in her program, Mom continued. She failed a few courses. Now she's talking about switching majors, which means starting over. Dad added, and she's still behind on rent. You were right, she wasn't paying what we gave her. She was living far beyond her means. Didn't say anything, because what was there to say? I'd warned them. They hadn't wanted to listen. Things are difficult for us too, Mom said quietly. We took out another loan to cover her expenses, but now we're behind on the mortgage. We never imagined things would turn out like this. I stared at them, waiting for the inevitable ask, and sure enough, Dad said, we're asking for help. Just until things stabilize. I blinked. You're serious? You're doing well now, Mom said softly. We're not asking for much. Just enough to cover Caroline's tuition and maybe help with the house. I actually laughed. It slipped out before I could stop it. You're asking me, I said slowly, to pay for the education you told me I didn't deserve. For the daughter you chose over me. That's not fair, Dad snapped. No, I shot back. What's not fair is you picked the child who made you look good and left me to fend for myself. And now that she's sinking, you come crawling to me. Mom flinched. We're your parents. We're your family. I shook my head. No. You were Caroline's family. I was just there. Dad's eyes narrowed. You think you're better than us now, just because you've made some money. I met his glare. No. I think I finally see you for who you really are. They didn't answer. For once, they had no words. A silence stretched between us, heavy and final. Then they turned and walked away. I thought that was the end. But of course, it wasn't. A week later, a cousin messaged me. Your mom's been posting things online. Vague stuff about ungrateful children who forget where they came from. Wasn't surprised. My parents were always skilled at spinning stories. In their version, I wasn't the daughter they abandoned. I was the selfish one, the cold one, the child who refused to help when the family needed it most. At first, I ignored it, but then something else happened. The article about me got picked up by a bigger publication. This time, it included a line from my panel speech. I built without a safety net. And now I build ladders for others, not bridges for those who watched me drown. That quote spread like wildfire. Suddenly, I was getting messages. Not from trolls, but from strangers. Students, kids from broken homes. People who said, "I see myself in your story." I thought I was alone. And that's when I decided to tell my story in full. Not as a clapback. Not to shame my parents. Just the truth. I posted a photo of me in my cap and gown, standing outside the Everett building where I never got to walk the stage. And I wrote, I was accepted into a top program alongside my twin sister. My parents paid her tuition in full and told me I didn't deserve mine. I worked 3 jobs, crashed on a couch, and eventually dropped out to build a business from nothing. It wasn't revenge, it was survival. And now that I'm standing, I'm lifting others with me. It went viral overnight. For the first time, the narrative wasn't theirs. It was mine. The morning after my post went viral, my inbox looked like a battlefield. Hundreds of messages, some from strangers thanking me, some from students who whispered their own stories of being the forgotten sibling, and some, of course, from family. The first email was from my mom. Short, bitter. How dare you humiliate us like this? Family business should stay in the family. You've twisted things to make yourself look noble. Don't forget who raised you. I almost deleted it without replying. But then I saw the second one. From Dad. You've burned every bridge. When Caroline sees this, she'll never forgive you. I laughed out loud. Forgiveness. As if Caroline had ever given me anything but disdain. And then I saw the third message. Not from my parents. From Caroline herself. Congratulations. You got what you always wanted, attention. Hope it was worth it. No apology. No acknowledgement of what I'd survived. Just venom. I closed the laptop. For once, their words didn't land. I didn't feel guilt. I didn't feel shame. Just clarity. 2 weeks later, I got an invitation. A local nonprofit was hosting a gala, and they wanted me to be the keynote speaker. I almost said no fancy. Galas weren't my thing. But then I read the details. Proceeds would fund scholarships for first-generation college students. That felt right. That felt full circle. So I bought a dress that wasn't secondhand, practiced my speech until I could recite it in my sleep, and showed up. The ballroom was glittering, packed with business leaders, educators, and students. I scanned the crowd nervously. No parents, no Caroline. Just strangers waiting to hear my story. When I walked on stage, the lights blinded me. But this time, I wasn't afraid. I told them about the couch, the triple shifts, the futon. I told them about surviving without a net, and about building one for others. And then I made an announcement I hadn't planned to make until that very moment. I've decided to establish a fund, I said, my voice steady. A scholarship for students whose families told them they couldn't. Because I know exactly what it feels like to be told you don't deserve a chance. The room erupted into applause. Some people even stood. My throat tightened. This wasn't revenge. This was legacy. Of course. News of the gala made its way back to my family the next morning. I woke up to a voicemail from Mom. Her tone was sweet this time, syrupy with forced warmth. Rachel, darling, we're so proud of you. We didn't realize how much you were hurting back then. Families make mistakes, you know. Why don't you come to dinner? Let's put the past behind us. I almost laughed. The switch was so fast, it gave me whiplash. 2 weeks ago, I was the ungrateful child. now that the world was applauding me. Suddenly, I was worth inviting back into the fold. But I'd learned my lesson. I didn't reply. Then came Caroline's collapse. I wasn't looking for it, but Everett gossip spreads fast. She had officially withdrawn from the program. Too many failed classes. Too much debt. Her Instagram, once full of ski trips and designer bags, went quiet. Rumor had it she'd moved back home. Part of me wanted to feel pity. She was my twin, after all, same DNA, same birthday. But pity isn't the same as obligation. I could feel sorry for her without sacrificing myself. For the first time in my life, I understood that difference. One night, months later, I got a letter, handwritten, from my dad. It wasn't long, just a few shaky sentences. Rachel, we didn't see you clearly. We should have. We failed you. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know I see it now. Dad, I read it 3 times. My throat burned, but I didn't call. I didn't run back. Because recognition doesn't erase years of neglect. It doesn't pay back nights I cried myself to sleep on a couch. It doesn't undo the words, you don't deserve it. Forgiveness, if it ever comes, will be mine to choose, on my timeline. Not theirs now. Years later, people sometimes ask if I regret it. Do I regret cutting my parents off? Do I regret refusing to save Carolyn? Do I regret walking away from a family that still insists on telling their version of the story? The answer is no, because regret implies I owed them something, that my worth was ever tied to their approval. I don't regret surviving. I don't regret choosing myself. I don't regret building a life where I wake up every morning knowing I stand because I built the ground beneath me. And here's the truth. I've learned the thing I wish I could whisper to every kid who feels like the forgotten one. Family isn't who claims you, it's who shows up for you. And sometimes, the family you need most is the one you create for yourself. I still live in the city. My company is bigger now. I've hired staff, expanded services, and yes, the scholarship fund is real, every year. 3 students get the support I never had. Watching them step into classrooms without fear of being told they don't deserve to be there. That's worth more than any revenge. Caroline and I haven't spoken in years. Mom still posts cryptic messages online, painting herself as the martyr. Dad's letter was the last I heard from him, but I don't wait for updates anymore. Their lives are theirs to live. Mine is mine, and mine is good. The night I signed the scholarship papers, I walked home past Everett's campus. The buildings glowed in the lamplight, the same walls that once reminded me of rejection, of sacrifice, of pain. But that night, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel excluded. I felt free, because the truth is, I didn't need Everett to validate me. I didn't need my parents to approve of me. I built my own stage, my own story, my own ending. And it was enough. It has always been enough.